Welcome to another episode of the Michael Adekole Show. On this show today, we have with us Daniel Uchechi, a former Leicester City player, Aberdeen, Charlton, and currently with Hampton and Richmond. You're welcome, my brother.
Thank you very much.
How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you.
So can you give me a little bit of insight about you? You know, what you're currently doing with yourself?
Well, a little bit of about myself.
Yeah.
I am the first of 6 boys
Wow.
in the family, and
I'm sure there was a lot of fights in the house.
actually, it wasn't because I don't think anyone had enough strength to fight. You've got to be, well fed to fight. So I think there's a lot more camaraderie and banter in the house more than fighting than you would imagine. But so a bit more about myself.
A bit more, yeah.
I went to a primary school in Lagos. I was born in Abia State, not that I can remember.
Oh.
I was born to a family of 2 sides. My dad's from Nigeria, my mom's from Togo.
Oh, okay.
So occasionally I always claim to be Togolese sometimes, but
nice mixture.
yeah. So
well, you played for Nigeria.
I did play for Nigeria,
Yeah.
and I did have hopes of playing for Togo, but that didn't happen. But gratefully, I did play for the under-20s, the Flying Eagles, and I played for the under-23.
Okay.
And was privileged to be captain and assistant captain as well. So under Samson Siasia.
Wow.
And coach Austin Eguavon.
Wow.
As my managers. So yeah, I have had the privilege to live a life or a dream that many young kids would want to live. Obviously, I didn't attain the heights I would have wanted professionally as a footballer. No excuses, but many reasons behind all that. But I did get to places where people could only dream of, and I would say it was fulfilling for me getting to those places.
How was the experience like, being in camp? I think you were the captain, were you not? You were the captain?
I was the captain, assistant captain on the 23s. Yeah. With I think Odion Igalo was the captain. Yeah. So yeah.
How was the experience like, going in camp, playing football for Nigeria? The first time you put on the green and white top, how just tell us how you felt.
I'll tell you the story of me coming to camp. The first time I was invited to the national team, I was at Charlton Athletic at the time. I was doing very well, and the first call up I had was to go to the under-20 camp. Okay. Bearing in mind, I've never played football in Nigeria for a club or a national team. I've had my football training days in England. I was in England at Charlton Athletic at the time. Although I did play for an academy when I was in Nigeria. There was a few academies I played for. Santana, they were called, and I had Coach Ike and Coach Emeka when I was little, pick me up from home.
Wow.
Mom never wanted me to play, not because she didn't want me to play, but she wanted us around to help her out, with food and things like that, cleaning up the house and selling stuff. You know what it is. I didn't grow up from a privileged home. We never had a lot. I mean, it's a story that a lot of Nigerians can relate to because I came from a home, a father who was a mechanic and a driver, and a mother who was a French teacher, but government never paid teachers' fees, so she had to make ends meet.
Which is still the same kind of situation.
So,
nothing's changed.
Yeah, so I can relate to all that and everything that's happening in Nigeria at the moment because I lived it as a child. Fighting to eat food, 3 square meals a day.
Wow.
When you get one, you're happy. I remember mom used to get some nights. She gets Gary, puts in a bowl, and the 5 of us to sit down, put water in it, and wait for it to get as high as it can, and then we'll start eating. That was dinner.
Wow.
I could tell you loads of stories like that.
It would be great for you to. I know that it's a very moving story, just of the scene of Gary. So I actually remember that kind of story as well, because the more the Gary, the more you enjoy.
Oh yeah,
but it's interesting though. How did you become a footballer? How did that happen?
Well, again, like I said, coming from the family I came from, my dad. My dad actually played football when he was younger. And I'll show you some pictures afterwards. He played football when he was younger. I think it just ran. It's something that ran in the blood in the family, and I took that up very early. from nursery to primary school. All I wanted to do was play football. As much as growing up, I was the head boy of my primary school. I was quite bright in school, and my parents realized that, so they football wasn't the way forward. They wanted me to go to school. They tried as hard as I can, like every other parent. My dad, may so rest in peace. He did a lot and would have given anything just to make sure he saw me go to school. And but I still ended up playing football. And football got me to where I am today. So I was playing and got I was taken to a trial. There was a program that was being run by the British Council, and I was invited to come to it, and I was lucky to be part of the few that was spotted. This was a vocational program, educational program that was based on sports, and the people that ran this took a liking to me. While I played football and my academics, and lo and behold, I was picked amongst the 4 people that were given a scholarship to come to England.
That is a massive achievement.
When I was 12, we came, coming from Lagos, coming to England, and
that would have been a shocking experience.
It was amazing. It was breathtaking, and I remember the first football game I went to was at Leicester. Leicester City versus Preston. I think this was in 2003 or 2002, and I can remember being in the stadium and the atmosphere was just surreal, and I thought to myself, this is what I want to do. I want to be on that pitch someday. I mean, coincidentally, I ended up playing for Leicester City. I mean, it was a weird beginning, and sort of coming back to that circle sort of brought back memories of how it all started again. So well,
it's funny because like most people, when they get to London or when they leave their parents for the first time, they come abroad. There's always this like shock you receive whereby you're in a class now with not just people that speak your language, but people that look completely different to you. Can you tell us how you settled in? Was there any sort of racism or any issues you faced at that time?
In fairness, I have been again. If you're familiar with the backgrounds or the culture in Nigeria, being a first son or a first child, a lot of responsibilities placed on you right from an early age. So from the age of 10 or from as early as I can remember, I've always sort of fended for myself, and also had that instilled in me to, look out for the family. So I always had that at the back of my mind. So coming away from home and getting to England, I don't think I had any sort of fear or any sort of doubt in me. To me, I saw it as something that I had to do, not just for the betterment of myself, but for the betterment of the whole of my family. So knowing that sort of, I think that toughened me or prepared me for life in general, and coming to England. So I mean, the good thing is I went to a school, St. Paul's Academy. I went to a school where the people in the school were so supportive. I can remember I'm still in contact with him. His name is Mr. Niall McCann. He was my PE teacher, and he just took me in, really. He looked after me. I can even remember my first prom clothes. He bought that for me. My first PlayStation, he bought it for me, and I'm still very close with his family, his wife and his kids. And so I mean, I think life growing up as a kid in Lagos and in Togo sort of prepared me for whatever challenges I was going to meet while I came over here. And so I took everything on my stride, really.
You were talking earlier on about time and life in Nigeria being toughening you up. Can you apart from the Gary drinking business, we all drank Gary.
Well, there's a few things. I remember my mom, to make ends meet at evenings, she did fry-ups by the roadside, like plantain, akara, yam and stuff like that.
I used to love that when I was growing up.
I can imagine. We used to call it dundun. So, and she was really good at it. But what we did was, after school, when we came back, we had to go, so not so much so my little brothers, because then they were quite young. So I most of the time had to go to Alaba International Market and sell plantain.
You sold plantain?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So you actually put it on your head and you sold.
You know, I walked
How
around.
old were you then?
I was about 10, 9, 10.
Wow.
You know, I was in primary school. I was just about to go into secondary school. I think it's called Common Entrance in Nigeria. Then I think it's still called. I don't know if it's still called Common Entrance.
Common Entrance, National Common Entrance.
I think that's what it was. And I was preparing to take an exam with the Air Force as well, Air Force Secondary School in Jos. So I mean, this was a daily routine after school. Go back home, quickly take plantain to Alaba International Market, try and sell it off, and come back home and then go play football.
Wow.
So this was a routine. I mean, to me right now, sitting back and looking at it, I don't see it as something special that I did, because I see, when I go back, I see a lot of kids doing the same thing. Some are even worse off. You know, so
because the economy was a bit better then than how it is right
now. I mean, back then I didn't think it was better, because we struggled to eat once a day. So I mean, thinking about it now, it's worse. So I can only imagine what it would be like. You know, so it was hard. But if there's anything I would take from this is, you know, there's always light at the end of every tunnel. And I think those sort of things prepare you for life in general, and which I think, I mean, I wouldn't say it prepares you. I don't think it should happen at the stage you are in the world in the 21st century. I don't think kids at age 9, 8, 7 should go through such things just to make ends meet or to eat. Kids shouldn't be put through that.
I think what you just spoken about, in kids actually going out there selling things, I think like right now there's a lot of children out of education in Nigeria.
That's exactly what it is. It breeds. That's what it breeds, because I don't think.
And most of them are hawking on the streets.
You can't sustain that. It brings tears to my eyes whenever I go back home and you're driving by and you see these kids, and I can only remember myself and I picture myself and what it was like, and I know the feeling. And it's like their lives are taken away from them, because they don't have no childhood. When you do that, your childhood's taken away from you, and I feel the same way now, because I looking back, I don't think I had a childhood, because my life revolved around, you know, people say, oh, you grew up too quick. I don't think it was a choice, but I think that choice was taken away from me. It was made for me already.
Childhood was
so I don't think I had a childhood, which is why now I feel like I'm catching up. You know, I'm still catching up, or trying to leave my childhood now where I missed out. So I wouldn't name one person I would call a friend when I was young. So I think I'm starting to make friends now that I'm older, and things that I think my kids would do now, I don't think I actually did them, because I was more busy trying to make ends meet. Exactly. So
going. Let's move forward a bit. Okay. You know, and let's talk about your football career. So, you know, let's talk about the memorable bits. You know, things about your, you know, best goals.
I mean, I scored.
Famous people you played with.
I mean, my story, like I said, is obviously I had this I had this conversation with you, and it is going to be put in a book, and an interesting one at that, because I have there's a few things from my journey from Nigeria to England, to the clubs I played for, to the clubs I could have played for, and the reasons why I didn't actually play for this club, because I had an opportunity to sign for West Ham, for Wigan Athletic. Had 4-year contracts put in front of me to sign, and for different reasons.
We don't want to spoil this. We don't want to go inside.
It will go in the book. But you know, one of my memorable moments was playing at Old Trafford. You know, playing at Old Trafford at the FA Youth Cup, and Gary Neville was the commentator, and he said something, and it stays with me for you know, because I saw the video of him having his commentary saying, Daniel Uchechi is the best player I've seen in ages, and he's just ran this game. And I thought, I got back home that day, I thought to myself, that's Gary Neville on TV calling my name. I was like, that's unreal. You know?
I know.
It's unreal. I've also been a victim of agents and people who try to take advantage of people and of kids, not people, of kids in Nigeria, vulnerable kids. When they see a talent, they like vultures and they circle around and just trying to see what they can milk out from you. And there's a few. I wouldn't put names now, but you know, like I said in the book, I will put those things. There's a few people out there who tried a lot of things, and in my career, in my life, a lot of them was a factor to where I ended up with football. And my advice would be really parents with their kids to
be very careful.
Yeah, and I think you should look out for your kids. There's nothing an agent would do that you can't do yourself if you put the time into it. Footballers suffer depression.
Wow. Yeah. Very true. Yeah.
It's a harsh world. As much as you see the money and all that.
Is that due to lack of them not making it?
It's not that, because
or even when they make it.
Yeah, there's pressure in it.
Because there was an article in the paper I'll say a couple of months ago, whereby former Everton player or current Everton player just walked onto the motorway.
Yeah, Aaron Lennon.
Aaron Lennon, yeah.
So those are typical examples. I had the same issue when I was at Sheffield Wednesday. Because I'll put this in the book, but it was I had 2 years, 2 to 3 years where I couldn't play, because of a number of reasons. Again, they would be divulged when this comes out. So this, and then when I got back playing, I signed for Leicester and went to Sheffield Wednesday. I had days where I didn't want to turn up for training. Because I kept picking up injuries. I was out for 6 weeks. I worked hard for 4 weeks, for 8 weeks to get back fit. And then 2 weeks later, you're out for 3 months. And then you go back home. You need to work another 3 months to get yourself back fit. And you go back and you're just thinking, what am I doing myself?
The funniest thing, the fans are not even nice.
Oh no, the thing is, they don't see that side. That's what I mean. But you don't blame them, because they only see what they're told. And like every other person, when your blood is filled with alcohol, adrenaline is pumping, or you want to see. So some of these fans are passionate about what they do. This is their life, so they don't really care.
In your career, so I'd like to talk about some like defining moments in terms of, a famous goal you scored or a goal you scored.
Well, I scored. I remember one time I was at when I was at Charlton. I had scouts from Real Betis and a club in Denmark come watch, and I scored a hat-trick at the game, and awesome. I felt like the king, So, and I came out and everyone was talking, and I thought, I was off to Real Betis, and Cyril Regis, may he so rest in peace, was my agent at the time, and he was with Stella Group. So all this was being planned to take me away to Spain, but that fell through again, again, I'll put that in the book. So that was one of my defining moments playing football, and also when I won the most valuable player for at the Milk Cup when I was at Charlton.
Wow, okay.
And this was when Chelsea and the United
were circle around.
Circle around to take me. So a number of reasons that didn't happen again. And again, my first international game for Nigeria under Samson Siasia was the under-23s. Just before, I think it was the Beijing Olympics in 2008. And I was actually originally called for the 20s. But I turned up on the 20s. It's a funny story. I turned up to Nigeria. The coach looked at me from head to the bottom, and he said to me, "This is not kids football. What do you think you're doing here?"
Well, you felt you were too small.
I just cracked up. I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, and he wasn't telling a lie, because when I looked at the people there, I was like,
they didn't look on the 20s.
Yeah, I was like, "Wow, this is beautiful." So and then Samson Siasia invited me over to under 23s. They had a tournament in Malaysia. And I went over and played the tournament, and I got the most valuable player for that tournament. That was my first ever international in Malaysia, Intercontinental Cup. So those were memorable moments while my short career in football. So
if the players you met, the top players you played with. Can you name any of them? I know you mentioned Odion Igalo. I couldn't name Odion Igalo's in China. Are you still in contact with him?
No. I mean, I've lost contact with Odion for a while now. I did speak to him over the phone a couple months back when he came to England. But players I played with, Darren Bent.
Marcus Bent.
Paulo Di Canio.
Good old Pablo.
Yeah, Mark Fish.
Wow.
Danny Murphy. Actually ran into him at the O2 during the Masters tournament, and yeah, we had a good old chat.
Catch up, yeah.
And Chris Powell, who's now the manager at Southend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was privileged to Rob shared the field with the pitch with most of these guys, and there was Zheng as well. One of the most graceful players I've ever seen. He was the captain of China at the time.
Wow.
A very good player. And yeah, I played Yakubu Yegbeni at Leicester City.
Good old Yak.
Yeah. Andy King, who was the captain of Leicester City. I played with quite a few players.
So you keep talking about this book that's coming out. So what should we? You've given us a little bit of snippet. But what should we expect? Why should people go out and get that book?
Well, because first and foremost, I'll be touching on things like the agents and the tactics of luring players in.
So parents would gain something. Parents would definitely gain something.
And I'll also be talking about my journey through coming as a kid, growing up in Nigeria with nothing, and coming to England and the difficulties. And the positives of being a footballer, and also difficulties of actually making it as a footballer, because there's only about statistically there's only about 3% of people that set out to be footballers that make it in the thousands, in the millions. Yeah, so it is a difficult sport to get into. And if you are going to go into this, you better be ready for it in the long haul, and it's not something I think parents should let their kids enjoy football, not make it a chore from a young age. Just let them enjoy it. If it's a talent that they would actually pursue, it would happen, and if not, then I'm sure they will do it for recreation.
What are your advice to kids that are setting up at home right now and they're watching us and they feel, you know what, I want to play football, I want to be the next Ronaldo, I want to be the next Daniel Uchechi?
Well, I hope for them, for I think they're the next Ronaldo. I mean, my advice would be to say, obviously, pursue your dream. And if you feel you've got the talent, just nurture it. But at the same time, you have to have other things, more tricks under your sleeves.
In case it doesn't work out.
Yeah, so it's an old saying, but you shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket.
So, you know, you're playing for the Flying Eagles. How was your experience working with the Nigerian Football Association?
There's a saying that says, "Don't bite the hand that feeds you." But
you know, obviously we know that a lot of the staff have changed.
On the topic of that, I would say a lot of things need to change. From my experience of it, wasn't great. I feel like the welfare players could be looked after a bit more, not a bit more, a lot more. And the FA shouldn't be a money-making scheme
for some selected people.
Yes, and I think with the state of sports around the world, it's a shame that Nigeria isn't a lot more advanced than it is at the moment, because we have actually got the talent to be one of the best countries in sports. And it's a shame that funds are being mismanaged, and the facilities are not being taken care of or or being provided for these athletes to use,
to train.
That's what I mean, because while I went to the national team, by the way, I'm still owed some money from 2011, just to let you know. They still haven't paid me, so hopefully maybe when they hear this, they'll call me up and pay me. But anyways, these are the kind of things that I'm trying to highlight. You can't owe players fees, and it has to start from the local league. Develop the local league, and I think a lot of players would not want to seek to go outside of the country so quickly. Like take South Africa, for example, the way the leagues run, the players actually play there.
And they get paid.
And you know the funniest thing is, the Europeans actually go take a look at the players back there playing.
Because the league is
the league's much better. They've got the facilities. But I don't think anyone takes Nigeria serious when it comes to football. Because what are you going to watch? There's nothing to watch. So I think there's a lot of things the Nigerian Association, the Federation needs to do And one of it is accountability. They need to be accountable for the actions and decisions they take. It needs to start from, like I said, locally, looking after the players back home
before they can be exported.
They can be exported, because it's difficult for a player who hasn't trained on grass to get out the country
and go and play on grass.
And
it might be synthetic grass.
Exactly. and the coaches are not, give them training sessions, train them. I mean, most coaches are just, they train out of the talent that they already have.
Yeah.
So imagine when those coaches are actually trained properly.
They'll be way better.
They'll be way better. And it is a problem. I don't think it's just in sports. The corruption in football, I think, is around the whole country. So if that could be taken out the game, players or agents bribing coaches, and actually closing doors to the ones who are talented to play, because they can't afford to pay to play. So things like that are something that needs to be eradicated. And if you're,
would all this be in your book as well?
Yes, some of it will be in my book. Yeah, and I hope I don't get banned from coming to Nigeria.
No, I think I can't wait to read this book. I'm looking forward to just sitting there, having a cup of coffee, and just and digesting life journey of Mr. Daniel Uchechi.
Yeah, probably drop a few names in there as well. So,
wow, interesting. Thanks for coming on to the show.
Problem. Thank you again for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And to our viewers at home, you've heard what it takes to become a footballer. And we know it's not an easy journey. It's hard work and dedication. And to the FA, Nigerian Football Association, if that owes Danny, if you get to watch this program, please pay up. Thank you again, viewers, and see you again next week. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you.